Adam Smith is known as the father of economics after publishing The Wealth of Nations in the 18th century. But despite writing 250 years ago, his ideas are still very relevant today, from everything from people's choices in careers, to government policy, to business strategy. In this video, we'll look at some of his most important ideas, how to create prosperity and how to manage limited resources. And I will show you, by using modern examples, why Adam Smith's ideas are just as relevant today. The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, is Adam Smith's defining work, and it laid the foundations for modern economics. In it, he described how markets, competition, and self-interest can organise an entire economy, almost without the need for government intervention. He described specialisation, trade, and the role of government, arguing that nations grow richer when people are free to pursue their own interests within a framework of law and strong institutions. More than 2 centuries later, it remains one of the most influential books on how economies function. So what does the book have to tell us today? Well, the title, The Wealth of Nations, offers a clue into Smith's first insight. Smith argued that a nation's wealth depended on what it could produce, the goods and services, not on all the money or gold it could hoard. Before Smith, mercantilists believed that accumulating gold was the way to get rich, but Smith showed that piling up gold didn't make society any better off. What matters is having more food, clothing, shelter, tools, and everything else that improves living standards. That insight is probably more relevant today when all our money is just paper or else digital numbers on a computer screen. Governments can and should print more or less money to stabilise the economy, but long-term prosperity depends on a society's ability to transfer or allocate resources to improving productive capacity. So how should the government allocate resources? Well, Smith's main insight was that the economy doesn't need a central authority to allocate resources. Instead, he argued that individuals acting in their own interest, choosing what to buy, where to work, what businesses to start, unintentionally guided resources to their best productive use. This, what he called the invisible hand, is what we would call today market forces. Millions of decisions on prices and output that happen all without any central government. And this is just as relevant now as it was in 1770, with countless decisions taken on a decentralised basis, from what mobile phone is the best value, to where to shift production to where the demand is high, or what financial investment should be made and in what new technology is arising. Prices constantly adjust to these decisions, sending signals as to what society needs more of, less of. When the price of something rises, production increases. But when the price falls, resources move elsewhere. This is Smith's idea in action, markets acting like a giant information system, helping to allocate resources efficiently. And it still happens today, even with global trade and complex supply chains. The market forces still shape many, many aspects of economic life. Smith believed that one of the most powerful drivers of growth was specialisation. His famous example was the pin factory. He showed how one worker making pins alone might make a handful of pins every day, but if the tasks were broken out into the varying parts like drawing the pin, sharpening the point, adding the head, well then the amount of pins that could be made escalated into the tens of thousands. That's because specialisation makes workers faster, more skilled, and more inventive. And it means that they've time to develop tools that are more productive and more specialised for the job. Now, key to this process is trade. In order for people to specialise, they have to be able to trade whatever they make for all of the countless things that they need. If you make pins all day, you depend on others to make food, clothing, shelter, all the other things that you need. So you need trade or voluntary exchange in order for the system to work. Smith's insight was that as people specialise, productivity increases. As skills improve, tools improve, and knowledge deepens. And as productivity increases, so too do living standards. This idea is even more relevant today. Modern economies are built on specialisation. There are countless surgeons who just do one type of operation. There are engineers who just design a single component for a jet engine. Or there are programmers who just design one tiny part of a global platform. Global supply chains are themselves vast networks of specialisation. Microchips designed in one country, built in another, and assembled in a third. Smith's core insight still holds. Smith's core insight still holds. Specialisation drives productivity, and productivity drives the wealth of nations. Smith is often portrayed as a champion of unrestrained capitalism, but that's more of a myth than reality. It's true he explained how markets work, probably more clearly than anyone before him, but he was also a moral philosopher, really concerned about justice, fairness, and the dangers of concentrated power. Smith argued that the government has several essential roles: defence, justice, enforcing contracts, and providing public works that private markets can't or won't provide, usually because they're difficult to provide profitably. Things like roads, ports, and education. He also warned against monopolies and cronyism. Smith didn't support unlimited corporate power, nor would he have approved of governments trying to run every industry. What he did believe in was balance. Use markets when they work, and governments when they fail. But he also knew that it is important to keep an eye on the moral impact of economic behaviour. He knew that prosperity required not only efficiency, but also trustworthy institutions and protections against greed and corruption and exploitation. He was far from being a simplistic advocate of laissez-faire economics. Smith understood that healthy markets and a healthy society require thoughtful but limited government intervention. It's quite remarkable that even in a world of AI, global supply chains, and 24-hour digital financial markets, Adam Smith's ideas are still applicable and relevant. They guide how markets work and why some nations prosper while others fail. The products, it seems, may have changed, but the people and their principles haven't. If you found this useful, please click the subscribe button and join me for the next video, where we discuss Karl Marx's contribution to modern society. Thanks for watching.